And good evening. Today is June 4th. Right now it is 7:35, and I'm calling to order this evening's meeting of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. For the benefit of those who have not participated in a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, our procedures are as follows. The secretary will read the legal notice of the meeting as published in local newspapers. The applicant will be invited to come forward and present the case, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested of this property. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. First, there will be clarifying questions from the commissioners. Then there will be an opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. Next, we'll have those who want to support the application come forward. Second, we'll ask those opposing the application to come forward. As this is a public meeting and must be recorded, it will be necessary for speakers to identify themselves by stating their name and address before addressing the commission. The applicant will then be free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearing and the regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of the commission and has the right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. Decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Office at 203-453-8039 after 9 a.m. Seated tonight are the following members of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. We have Tom Cost, Walter Carbier, I'm Rich Meyer, Ray Bauer, Josh Hirschman, Frank DeAndrea, and Richard Wallace is joining the commission tonight. Just take a second out. David Grigsby is no longer going to be on the commission, and I just wanted to take a second and thank him for his 8 years of service, which is an incredibly long time. The town owes him a great deal of thanks. So, David, good job. We're joined tonight by staff. We have George Krell, Reggie Reed, Katie Arbuckle, and Shannon is running the cameras tonight. Mr. Secretary, would you read the notice?
Legal notice, Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on June 4, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. at the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center, Monunketuck Room, 2nd floor, 32 Church Street, Guilford, Connecticut, for the following purposes. 1. Bessemer, Peter and Eva, 21 Spencer Avenue, Map 5, Lot 6, Zone R2, Coastal Area Management Site Plan Reconstruction of Access, Stairs, and Platform, Section 273-91. Copies of these applications are available for inspection at the office of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Hall South, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. At this hearing, persons may attend and be heard, and written communications will be received. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 14th day of May, 2014. Richard Meyer, Chairman.
Yay, good job. So we have Peter and Eva Bessemer, and we have some people presenting for them too.
Revised agenda. Revised agenda.
That's after this now, isn't it?
Oh, no.
Right. Sorry. Go right ahead.
My name is John Roberge. I'm a professional engineer and principal with Roberge Associates, Coastal Engineers, 611 Access Road in Stratford, Connecticut. With me is the project designer and project manager, Matt Taberna, also a professional engineer with our firm. And Peter and Eva Bessemer are also in the audience. The questions come up on things that I can't answer. It's a pretty simplistic project. I don't know what's best for the commissioners to see. If I should be closer, please let me know. 21 Spencer Avenue, historically, pre-Hurricane Irene, had a timber pier structure which extended from the upper reaches of the rocky outcrops that characterize that shoreline down to the water, and pretty much taken away by Irene and cleaned up by Sandy. There's some remnant piles, some concrete abutments which remain. The intent of this project is to replace the pier and dock structures that were there with a timber access walkway, which kind of follows the topography of the rock and ledge. There will be a section that extends from the top of the slope, nominally 4 feet wide by 47 feet long, extending here. The residence on the upper part of the property, the exposed rock ledge running to the sound. This is the exact position of the old pier structure. And we're just replacing it with, instead of an elevated uniform height pier, we're going to put in a set of stairs, approximately 47 feet long. There will be a terminal end of this, which will be seasonally removable. and it will not be timber, but it will be a composite material, fiberglass, steel impregnated. You've probably seen, it's called flow-through decking. It's a composite material. We want to be able to have the water flow through at minimal loads on the structures. And that would be, we would suggest, and the DEP, in their approval of this application, suggested that that be seasonally removed. The stairs are, for the most part, less than, say, nominally 2 feet above the rock surface. 30 inches, it says maximum. So there's relatively easy, there's no need or code requirement for railings, but we have railings in sections where it's slightly elevated. Construction, for the most part, would be would include setting rock anchors into the rock, basically epoxying bolts into the rock, and then bolting the timber piers into the foundation. Pressure-treated timber would be the material of construction. Galvanized bolts, probably the rock anchors would be stainless steel bolts for longevity. Work would be 99% done by hand. There are some, as I said, there's some remaining structural elements from the old pier that we would like to remove as part of this. DEP, the portions that are in their jurisdiction, they're requiring us to remove them. Those might be removed by hand, but we may have a barge come in for that 1 or 2 hours to lift that out and then clean up the rock. It's kind of it in a nutshell. The resources at the site, obviously it's in the coastal high hazard flood zone, and obviously we have rock outcrops. There are no wetlands on site. The site obviously is tidal. We don't anticipate any permanent impacts or even short-term impacts to any of the resources. And DEP and Corps of Engineers agree with that assessment, so I'm glad to share that with you all.
So you have all your approvals from everybody except us?
Correct. Yep.
Good.
We would anticipate construction to start as soon after your approval if possible.
Tonight?
Probably not.
Okay. Walter, questions?
How many rock anchors would be drilled into the rock?
I think the spacing ranges, but the average spacing of the piers is approximately 8 feet. So we'd have, on the upper section, we'd have 10 to 12, and then on the lower section, we'd have about 8 to 10. So a total of about 20.
So the maximum that you might have would be 30 or 28?
That would be on the outside, yes. That would be very large. The rock anchor itself is a drilled hole, about a 1-inch diameter hole into the rock. Approximately, the bond length of the anchor is 8 inches, so we would usually go about 12 inches. The drilling itself is done by a rotary drill, and we always require, and I would recommend you condition that the cuttings be vacuumed up or collected on a per hole basis.
Did you see Kevin McGee's letter dated June 3rd, by any chance?
No.
Okay. He just, well, I think we're going to read the record. Well, I could just read the letter into the record.
Go ahead.
Okay. To Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission from Kevin McGee. This application is for the reconstruction of a 4-foot wide by 47-foot long timber stair platform structure that would provide access to Long Island Sound. The work is shown to be constructed on a rocky shorefront and in a FEMA flood zone. This work has a low potential to cause salutation to the waters of Long Island Sound. In order to mitigate any impact to the coastal resources, the applicant should remove any debris to an upland disposal location at the end of each workday. So you sort of just said that's what you would do. Do you have a problem that's a condition that we...
I think he's a wise man.
Okay.
Good.
I just,
Tom?
question. Could you just point, so that I'm clear, could you point out on that picture I believe it's the document sort of in the middle, that's it right
Yeah,
there?
that's the pre-Irene photo.
Okay. And the portion that's going to be removable is,
It's actually there. It's equivalent to, nominally to at the coastal jurisdiction line.
okay, is it in the water?
No, it's above the water. Well, this could be partially in the water depending on the tidal conditions. Yes. And
So what would the use be for, would there be the uses for to have a boat?
no, uses for kayak launching and swimming. There's no intent for berthing a boat at all. In fact, I think we'd be receptive to even having that condition.
We don't need that. I just wanted to make sure. We do have some other letters here, by the way, it should be ready to the record.
Can you move?
If you want, I'll read this one. This is from, if it's okay.
Go ahead.
There's a letter here from John Goucher from
Long Island Sound Program.
Long Island Sound. Hi, Kevin. We have reviewed the above referenced proposal for consistency with Connecticut Coastal Management Act policies and have no comments for the Planning and Zoning Commission's consideration. Please let me know if you have any questions or if you need any further information. John Goucher.
Right?
Where's the jurisdiction line on the map that we have the jurisdiction on? It's just a little piece of the construction, right, where the...
Yeah, it's maybe 18 inches, 2 feet.
Right. And everything else is state jurisdiction. Okay, good.
So that's not
We only
flotation.
have,
No, it's not.
yeah,
Not flotation.
Right.
It will be fixed.
we don't have jurisdiction on the water side, really, or the other side, but
We don't.
that's state jurisdiction.
Mr. Bauer's just mentioning that we don't actually have any jurisdiction over the thing at the end. We only have the...
Good.
But we'd like to give you the good.
Right.
I
It
don't
would be
have
very
any more.
confusing if you just blacked that out.
Yeah.
Okay. Richard? Frank? Josh? Frank, all set?
All set.
Okay. All right, very good, thank you. Wonderful, nice presentation. All right, that's going to be the end of the public hearing. Of course, sorry, yes. Anyone to speak for this or against this at all? No? Okay. Questions? No. No one has anything. All right, so then we'll close the public hearing. And we need an approval of the revised agenda. Does someone want to make a
So
motion?
moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So, deliberation of the public hearing. Let's share some thoughts on this.
Probably should get a motion on the table first, right? Sure. Discuss. You wanna do it?
I have one
Sure.
extra, I have one extra condition that's probably not relevant about the anchors, so I'll do it.
Go ahead.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a coastal area management site plan for Peter and Eva Besmer at 21 Spencer Avenue, map 5, lot 6, as shown on an application dated May 14, 2014, and is heard at a public hearing on June 4, 2014. This application is approved with the following conditions. Number 1, the applicant should remove any debris from the construction work area to an upland disposal location at the end of each work day, and a maximum of 30 holes will be drilled in the rock for rock anchors.
How
that
many
give them enough
of those
room?
holes are in our jurisdictional area? Do you-
They-
Roughly.
They would be.
Probably 24
Okay.
at max. But I
So
would
you
suggest
can live
30
with the number that...
Is 30
that
okay?
30 is more than enough. Okay, good.
I just think we should get in the habit of paying attention to that because those holes never go away.
We could fill them with epoxy. The cavity. Okay, so that's good.
True. Second.
Second, all right, so now discussion.
Hold on.
No?
This
Right, there's more.
application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code and is consistent with the coastal management policies of the state of Connecticut. So amended.
Good.
Second.
Okay, so, any kind of discussion?
Well, minimal activity in our jurisdictional area, well-engineered, trying to replace basically what was there before. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't approve it.
No, I think it's gonna look absolutely beautiful and let them enjoy it, so that's wonderful by me. Tom?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay.
I live there. This is what everybody does. So.
Yeah, so we're good. All right, so let's take a vote then. All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Congratulations. Wonderful news for you. All right, now the subdivision. Next up is the subdivision.
So honest. More people should know this.
We should start telling jokes. Michael.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. For the record, my name is Michael Harkin. I'm a professional engineer and principal of Harkin Engineering, located at 78 Wolf Hollow Lane in the town of Killingworth, Connecticut. I'm here tonight on behalf of my client, Sunset Creek Development, for their project entitled Sunset Meadow, which is located at Little Meadow Road, Stepstone Hill Road, and Nut Plains Road. The Sunset Meadow project is a 5-lot residential subdivision for single-family houses. Before we start our presentation, I'd just like to note for the record that the land surveyor of record is Anderson Engineering and Surveying Associates. The civil engineering firm is Harkin Engineering, and the soil scientist is Mr. Richard Snarsky. The subject parcel is comprised of 15.84 acres. You can see on this map, it is highlighted in magenta. Again, it abuts Little Meadow Road, Stepstone Hill Road to the north, and Nut Plains Road to the east. There's an existing small little 2-bedroom house on the corner at the intersection of Stepstone Hill and Nut Plains. What you see in blue is the area that Mr. Richard Snarsky has marked out as inland wetlands. It's also important to note that the yellow line splits the parcel between a zone R5 and a zone R4. So again, we're here tonight for a subdivision. Our proposal is a 5-lot, single-family residential subdivision. We've highlighted each lot, and I'll go through it. Lot number 1 will be facing Little Meadow Road. Lot number 2 in orange will be off of Stepstone Hill Road. Lot 3 in green will be off of Stepstone Hill Road. Lots 4 and 5 will be a combined driveway and will be accessed off Nut Plains Road. What you see in blue is an area for a conservation easement that will be located on lots 2, 3, and 4. So again, going back to our plan set, obviously the first sheet of the plan set is the cover sheet, Sunset Meadow, with the sheet index. The second sheet is the record subdivision map that we basically just highlighted for clarity for the Commission. This third sheet in our subdivision plan set is an inland wetlands boundary clarification map that was required by the inland wetlands. We needed that approved prior to going through the whole wetlands process, and we do have approval for that. It's important to note that in your packet, I believe when it's read into record, we do have a favorable approval from the Wetlands Commission for this 5-lot subdivision. So continuing on in our project plan set, we have a sheet entitled Grading Utility Erosion Control Plan for lots 1 and 2. As you can see, it's the detailed layout for lots 1 and 2 that shows the houses, the driveways, and the septic systems. It's important to note that we have city water in this area, so all lots will be utilizing that municipal water, and we will have septic systems on each lot. Again, I believe in your file you'll have a favorable approval from Mr. Dennis Johnson regarding all the septic systems. Additionally, on this plan set, you can see clearing limit and area of disturbance, as well as all the erosion controls, silt fence, staked hay bales, and construction entrances. Our next sheet is the grading utility erosion control plan for lots 3, 4, and 5. Again, it has all the features that it needs to demonstrate that we can get houses and septics in and driveways in order to meet the subdivision regulations. So again, lot number 3 will have access off Stepstone Hill Road. Lots 4 and 5 will have a common driveway at this point because we do have a small wetlands crossing in that vicinity. The last sheet of our plan set has to do with all the septic systems and erosion control notes for wetlands. Again, we've sat down, we've gone over the plan with Dennis Johnson. We have favorable approval from the Health Department aspect. We've gone through the Wetlands Commission, have favorable approval from them as well. So with that being said, in a nutshell, that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have at this time.
Conservation easement, do you have a buyer for that yet, so to speak?
Do we have a what for
A
that?
buyer for it yet? Or do you have someone who's going to maintain that or actually be deeding it?
Yeah, for the record, I'm going to let Mr. Anderson handle
Sure.
that, since he drew it in accordingly.
Okay. Eric Anderson, Anderson Engineering and Surveying Associates here in Guilford. The conservation easement area is a total of 4.82 acres, which is well over the 10% that's required. It has more than the required upland area as a percentage of the total package according to your regulations. It is larger than what we had originally proposed because when we were out with the Wetlands Commission asked us to include more of the area of the wetlands on lots 3 and 4. We did not have areas of 3 and 4 included. So we have, at the request of the Inland Wetlands Commission from the walk, we have included these other areas, which is probably almost another acre in total into the conservation easement. So we feel that that is the best way to handle the open space here, because this areas of that are not of large size are not too attractive to conservation groups to take as a separate parcel, but as a conservation easement area, it does meet your requirements under the Canadian General Statute, Section 8-25, where it says that every subdivision shall provide for dedication of land in order to, there are a bunch of different things, but one is to protect and conserve natural features and resources, which when I first came up with this, I figured that this whole area in here, even though it is protected wetlands, if it's a conservation easement and is posted, it would have an additional, let's say, an additional set of eyes, an additional control over what happens in that area. So again, we have, it's quite a bit more than the 10% that's required. But, those are the reasons that we're asking for those to be the open space for this project.
Mr. Chairman, the intent is to convey the easement to the town.
Okay.
Assuming if the town, you'll see this spelled out in Kevin's his memo. If the town should choose not to accept the easement, then we'll ask the applicant to create a deed restriction. It's more or less the same thing. Other options for open space were discussed with the applicant, and this is the method that they prefer to go with.
And they're all conforming lots to the open space that
Yes.
There's a letter here probably that we should read in. Kevin's letter.
I'll read it.
There's two of them, there's Dennis and Kevin, so.
All right, for, to Guilford Planning and Zoning, from Kevin McGee, environmental planner. I reviewed plans for the Sunset Meadow residential subdivision. The applicant has not demonstrated how the stormwater will be managed from each house and driveway. However, the engineer has indicated that the individual lot plans will show underground storm water detention systems. A large portion of the property contains wetlands which the applicant proposes to protect with a conservation easement. The Guilford Inland Wetlands Commission at its May 14, 2014 meeting approved a regulated activity for a subdivision of 5 lots, driveway crossings house constructions, driveway, utilities, and septic constructions within 100-foot jurisdictional review. The commission also favorably referred Sunset Meadow subdivision with the conditions to the Planning and Zoning Commission. A copy of the referral letter has been submitted to the file. Recommendations for conditions of approval, separate from those of the Inland Wetland Commission. 1, all lots to have on-site water infiltration systems to capture roof water and where feasible for driveway runoff. In order to prevent construction in the conservation easement area, I recommend the following conditions of approval. The language of the conservation easement shall be in accordance with the standard conservation easement document of the town of Guilford. The terms of the conservation easement shall be made a restrictive covenant running with the land, binding on successors and assigns. If a conservation easement is not approved by town meeting, the applicant shall file a deed restriction with similar language. The conservation easement deed restriction shall be filed in the land records at the same time the final subdivision maps are filed. No building permit shall be issued and no site work to be constructed until the conservation easement has been filed in the town land records and the subdivision has been properly marked with iron pins and signed as noted on the site development plan. As noted in section 27224 of the subdivision regulations, a digitized copy of the final subdivision plan be submitted to the commission in PDF format showing the property lines. There's also a letter from Dennis Johnson to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Soil tests conducted on the applicant's proposed lots in January 2014 revealed suitable conditions for construction of code-complying septic systems. Water supply to all proposed lots will be provided by connection to public water main. Based upon soil test results and site plan review, it is recommended that the applicant's proposed subdivision be approved with the following conditions. Septic system, 1, septic systems for all proposed lots shall be designed by a licensed engineer. And that is it.
So anyone have any other questions?
I have a question on we also had a memo, or actually the certified mail from the Inland Wetlands, where they approved it, but then in their conditions it says that all site construction for lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 require an individual wetland permit.
Right, they
So-
have to come back each time they build.
Each time?
Yep.
Okay.
So, and that's where I guess they're going to address the roof drainage situation. I know there was some question on lot number 3, the septic system was right on the wetland, but you're going to come back and deal with that, yes?
Yes, actually, one of the requirements in the inland wetlands approval was that they keep all septic primary systems 50 feet away from every wetland. We're at like 47. The requirement in the state health code is only 25, so we're going to go above and beyond and kick that back. But yes, we will address those. And the reason for it each lot has to go back to wetlands is that there is a 100-foot upland review area that goes on all the lots, and we'll be doing some work within that upland review area, so we do have to go back.
Good. Frank? Anyone? Richard? Josh?
All set?
All right, so I guess we're ready to make the motion. Yes. Someone want to make this motion?
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a subdivision application for Sunset Creek Development, map 92, lot 15, as shown on the following. Record subdivision map, Sunset Meadow, dated March 26, 2014, revised to 4/10/14, prepared by Anderson Engineering and Survey Associates. Engineering plans for Sunset Meadow, 3 sheets dated 4/4/14, revised 4/28/14, prepared by Parking Engineering LLC. This application is approved with the following conditions. All lots to have on-site stormwater infiltration systems to capture roof water and where feasible for driveway runoff. The language of the conservation easement shall be in accordance with the standard conservation easement document of the town of Guilford. The terms of the conservation easement shall be made a restrictive covenant running with the land, binding on successors and assigns. If a conservation easement is not approved by town meeting, the applicant shall file a deed restriction with similar language. The conservation easement deed restrictions shall be filed in the land records at the same time the final subdivision maps are filed. No building permits shall be issued and no work, well, I guess it should be numbering these, huh? We're just cruising through them. All right, so number 1 was, well, I was still reading number 2, I suppose. So that was number 2, what I just said. And now number 3, no building permit shall be issued and no site work to be conducted until the conservation easement has been filed in the town land records, and subdivision has been properly marked with iron pins and signage as noted on the site development plan. As noted in section 272-24 of the subdivision regulations, a digitized copy of the final subdivision plan be submitted to the commission in PDF format showing all property lines. 5, septic systems for all proposed lots shall be designed by a licensed engineer. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms to the zoning and subdivision codes of the town.
Very nice, thank you.
Second.
Second, there you go. Any other discussion?
It seems like they have a lot of conditions.
It's like the conditions.
Very good. It's a very complete application. Nice job. So, okay, anything else? Set?
My concerns were all
What did-
wetlands related, and they were
Gotta come back.
Was there any notice that was there any notice that needed to be sent to the neighbors of this area? No?
Okay. Last chance. Anything? All right, all those in favor? Opposed, abstentions? Congratulations, John.
Thank you for your time.
Good job.
Good
Nice.
luck.
Very nice. Good luck with it. Okay, Kroger time. 1065 Boston Post Road, 946 lot 48, zone GB, site plan modification, outdoor seating.
after the fact.
After the fact.
Come on, it's not listed.
My name is Yong Fan. I'm the owner of Pro Time. We've been there for, I don't have this fancy things, but we've been there for 2 years. With the first one there, actually, frozen yogurt business in this whole region, this town, Brantford, Madison, all 3 towns were the first one. Now we have 5. So, there's, 2 in Brantford, there's another one in Madison, and we have 3 here. Honestly, we are, in a tough competition here. But anyway, so that's beside the point. We located, as you know, in CVS Pharmacy Plaza, right next to Supercut. The owner of the landlord actually just did the patio right in front of the door, the business door. The patio is pretty good size, the brick patios, and it's very sturdy and very nice. And a lot of customers asking for outdoor seating. A couple of my competitors doing that too. So in order to be staying alive and be competitive, I should do what others do, and plus, more importantly, I got to meet the customer's demand. So what I'm trying to do is to put 2 tables, steel wire tables. It's like 30 by 30 inches. It's not that big. Right in front of on our side, and 6 chairs, not more than 6 chairs, and 2 umbrellas with that. So it's going to be only on like sunny days, like a spring, summer, and fall, maybe from April to October, and so I train my, I'm going to train my, employees that they have to turn, pull it down at night, and then we're going to put it up whether it's a windy or a rainy day or whatever. So that's that. And I guess that's,
George, do we have to waive a professionally prepared site plan for this as well? Just to be...
Technically.
All right, good.
You think we might not actually technically have to, right? It just might be better if we do anyway.
Yeah, this really is fine.
Well, as long as you consider it fine, you can waive it. Yeah.
Do you want to make a motion that we can accept
Well,
this?
I would,
I just want to ask the town folks, actually. There's no safety hazard here. There's no, cars don't pull into these, as I recall. So they park over here, facing in here, but there's nothing that goes up against this curb.
There's not a railing, that's it.
No, but is there a reason? Is this patio, is there a lip down to the pavement?
The curb.
Yes.
Okay, and no one has a concern that there would be danger from somebody hitting people that are sitting in at these tables?
It's already
The
been.
car would jump the curb, you mean?
Yeah.
I guess it's conceivable. It's actually, this drawing isn't really to scale. There's a fair distance between the curb and and where these tables would be placed.
and there's plenty of room there, so that's not going to interfere
Yeah.
with pedestrian
The main
use.
thing is to make sure that the chairs don't wind up out where people are walking back
Right.
and forth.
Okay.
So that's
There has to be a clearance for ADA compliance, so
Right.
I would really make sure.
I think there is plenty of room there.
I would make sure because that could come back and bite us.
That's the thing with the
You
site
mentioned
plan.
6 chairs.
Hate to be a pain, but...
Yeah.
Why not?
I haven't seen it.
8
Just check
and
the
9,
tables are
but I like to, in between the tables, I like to have a little pathway so that people can come in here so that they clear, yeah,
So you think more likely you'll end up with 3 chairs at each and...
around, yes.
But the little pathway still has to be 4 feet. For handicap compliance, it has to be 4 feet on passing on all sides, yeah.
Do you currently have tables out there?
Yeah, I put it there, just to see, how it looked. And then my landlord, wants to know what kind of chairs and umbrellas I'm gonna put in, so I just put it there.
And have you noticed any problem with people getting around it?
No.
No problem at all.
Yeah, I've been there, and it's really a big space. I would guess it to be 20 feet between the stores and the curb, maybe even more.
Okay.
Probably more.
We have a motion on this?
There's no motion yet. Oh, yeah, we're supposed to
Who wants to make a motion?
I got one here. I think I've got it. Voted, the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a site plan application to allow outdoor seating at Kroger Time, 1065 Boston Post Road, map 46, lot 140, as shown on an application dated 5/21/14. This application is approved with the following conditions: that no more than 2 tables and 8 seats be allowed, and be placed so as not to interfere with pedestrian use in the area. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code.
Second.
Okay. Frank, do you have other questions?
No, just the other question I would have, and I don't know if you guys went and saw the actual site, is knowing you're near any kind of handicap ramps getting in, because I'm not familiar enough to know.
It's not near anywhere.
They're sort of up on either side.
Do we want to add a condition?
What would the condition would you like to add?
For, make sure that there's 4 foot planters on either side.
Well,
I just don't know if that's, is that necessary? or-
No, it's outside.
Yeah.
It's in a large area, and it's not on the sidewalk. So I don't know.
Just really worried about it.
Yeah.
Does staff
Oh, so
have
it's
any
not on the
concerns
sidewalk.
about any?
No, it's not on the sidewalk.
It's not, okay, so,
It used to be a green space. And when they did the renovations to CVS, they tore out all the weeds and everything else. And it looked so awful and forlorn that the Ian Marsh, the manager of that particular CVS Plaza, decided to put in these lovely patio pavers. They're like bricks.
Okay.
And
So
they're
it's like a brick
lovely.
patio.
So it's a pet, so it's not in the sidewalk at all, so it really doesn't matter.
Is this in the
The
back?
sidewalk
up
is
front.
between the store and this paver area, and then you have the paver
Right,
area.
but the sidewalk was already compliant, so, and these tables are in the patio, not anywhere near that sidewalk,
Correct.
so, then that's a moot point, pretty much. Then the only other question I would have is there's no lighting or anything, whatever is existing is staying, right?
Nothing added.
Nothing added, right. It's good enough for me.
John?
Okay,
Ray?
all set.
Tom? Walter?
I made the motion.
All right, so we have a
We have a
second.
second, right?
All right, so let's have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
And I'll make a motion that we waive a professionally prepared site plan with
second
regard
that.
to this.
Thank you. Do we have to vote on it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, so let's vote on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? None? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good work. All right. We are zipping through here so quick. It's wonderful. Sachem Square LLC, 934 Boston Post Road, map 47, lot 23, zone PV. Change of use retail to professional office, receive and take action. And Reggie is going to tell us what's going on.
My name is Reggie Reed, and I have an office in Town Hall South. Joe Amatrano, Senior, who is part of Sachem LLC, is not here tonight because his grandson is playing baseball.
Good.
And that was very important to him. This space that we are currently discussing tonight used to be part of the casual curtain shop. And as we all know, they closed suddenly. And so the landlord has had tenants come who are dentists, and they would like to change half of the space into a professional office. It will be a pediatric dentist practice. So because it was retail before when it was the curtain shop, we're changing the use of the space, half of the space, to professional office, and that's why it's before you. And he did give us some very nice drawings. It will be the space that you first enter, and use the same door that you would have used to go into the casual curtain shop. I know you guys went for curtains.
I know where it is. That's actually the
You know
kids.
where it is?
Can I see that?
It's next to Ashley's, everybody.
Yeah, the kids can get their teeth done and then go to
That's
Ashley's.
right, they can get
Stumbling
the teeth
there.
done. Here's the,
Was there last night.
that's the space that the dentist
I thought he
office.
was, where's the casual ice cream place?
Oh, this is the whole,
We need more ice
this whole
cream.
area was
Since
casual.
Friendly's been
Put them
out.
on either
Now, is
side.
there another door here?
Ice cream.
There will be another tenant, but the proposal tonight is just for this space, because that may end up being retail, and yes, he will probably put another door there.
But that's going to be separate.
Yes.
there already.
Yes.
Well, I think they had to pull out everything that casual curtain left.
I mean,
I think I've seen them working.
I
too.
think I've seen new
Well, they could-
utility
The
boxes.
landlord can go in.
Yeah, they could
and
work.
clean up the,
Yeah, and that's.
Because we don't know if it's retail or professional yet, but they can do whatever they want, right? Pretty much
Right,
in the
they can go
interior.
inside and clean up the property, because
Yeah.
casual curtain left everything.
This is
Except
casual
for-
curtains.
So the proposal before you is to approve half of this space. It will be 1,658 square feet for professional office. Dennis Johnson has or you have a memo from Dennis Johnson, and it says the proposed change of use from retail to professional office does not conflict with the sanitary system capacity or design of the existing building. And I'll answer any questions.
My only question would be parking. Everything's adequate with the change of use?
We don't have additional parking for medical offices. It's just a professional office space, and actually the retail has more parking than the office does.
So they'll be fine.
Lots of
It's a
parking.
wash. Yeah.
Under our regs, this is a lower intensity use in every way,
It could be.
in terms of septic and parking.
I'm not a
Yeah.
pain.
Parking,
Right now.
parking is a wash. You don't need extra parking. They were a restaurant. be looking for more parking.
Right.
Yeah, still.
Now, that used to be a Hearth store on the corner, and then it became a restaurant. So did that
That's
eat up
correct.
some of the available parking that?
Yes, but there was always parking on that side of the
Yes.
store
Yep.
when it was a cycle and stove store.
Yep. So are there any other issues that, I mean, I'm not seeing anything here.
No, we'll be reviewing signage next Wednesday at the DRC meeting.
Right. And right now, it's just a use change that
Yeah,
we're
it's a use
worried
change
about
for
right
an
now.
empty shell.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a site plan application for a change of use from retail store to professional office at Sachem Square, 934 Boston Post Road, map 47, lot 23, as shown in an application dated May 2nd, 2014. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? Tom? This is gonna be great. This is gonna be great. This is a professional office. What could be better? What could be better? Great.
All set.
All good? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions? Reggie, thank you for presenting. Nice job.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that's good. Whitfield Square Realty LLC, 2 Water Street, map 32, lot 43, zone C1, amend site plan, delete 2 benches, and add cafe tables. Total number of outdoor seats to remain the same. Receive and take action. You're on.
Yes, my name is Larry Mahone. I'm the owner of Whitfield Square, with the cafe, Colors Cafe is now occupying the corner. And what I'd like to do is continue, I think what was approved with a sweet pie last year with a bench in front of the corner window, which I can show you, and then asking for more seating outside in an area that I guess maybe this is just show this to everybody, is that was approved. And there's potential tables here, and exactly what was approved, I'll pass this on to everybody, with benches here. The likelihood is that there wouldn't be benches in front of that window. We marked this all, I have it by mistake. So that the tables could be here or benches.
Could I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Help me with orientation here. I know the building. I used to shop in Mr. LeBlan's store.
This is.
So this is right on the corner?
This is water,
He has
this is the corner.
66
This is
parking
water, this
spaces
is
on
Whitfield.
the site.
Okay?
Okay, so here's the
So those
water.
are the 2 display windows you see when you come across.
And the sidewalks,
Are here, the 2 sidewalks. And Reggie and I went over is that this will show that I own up to that half.
Do they count
street parking?
66 parking spaces on site.
So she drew a
Well, he has to keep the tables on his property. He owns half of the sidewalk.
So how wide is the sidewalk? Do you know offhand? Is it 10 feet, 8 feet, 12 feet? And I'm only asking because I'm trying to envision how far out from the building the tables would come. And do you know how big the tables are, or?
If I can buy them small enough, I don't want to go beyond that line.
Yeah.
And it might work out, if I don't see a table I like, I'll buy a bench.
Yep. And I guess what I would be worried about is if I said, or we said yes to a table, and you said, you know what, they said yes to a table, I'll get a 10-foot table.
I could do this, I could agree to, once I figure out the depth of where the land is that I own, can't go beyond that.
Well, we just add a condition that says that the seating does not interfere with the pedestrian use of sidewalks. That's fine, fair enough.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah, that's good, that's good. All right.
Does anybody else need to?
this is just a summer, spring, fall, and this is just summer, spring, and fall, right? You're not gonna have
This
those.
is your own.
Oh, yeah.
No way.
It would be kind of hard to plow that.
What I would like to do is find out a way for people to tie up their dogs so they go and buy coffee.
You know, they do that at the bagel store. They tie it to the railing out front, and then they go in and buy coffee.
Those
Put a little
are,
post up there, yeah.
Put a post up.
Tie it around the
Post
columns
down
there.
there.
pavement.
I have a horse post in my house.
I think I've seen people actually tie them to the rituals columns there.
Maybe some sort of hook or loop or something that they can just do it, get more customers.
Or have,
You can't have the stairs on the
Sure, that's a great idea. All right, well, what other questions do we have?
I just would like to make sure that this actually stays on his property and not on the town sidewalk, because that, when we're crossing, yeah, that's interfering with pedestrian use of the sidewalk.
Right.
And that's slightly different from retaining all of these objects on the property owner's property itself.
So do you want to make that the...
I know.
Well, there is a condition.
Add my
in
own.
here.
That's closely, just because I'm just worried about, this is a really busy intersection, obviously, and this is far enough back from that intersection that I don't necessarily see a problem materializing if it stays up against the building, but we want to make absolutely sure, because a lot of things happen at that intersection, as I know you know.
No,
as
well,
you've seen.
If you're talking about this intersection going across the street?
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
talking about
okay.
the Whitfield Street to the complications here in front of Cilantro.
I might, even though this has been approved, this is your window at the corner.
Right.
And if it blocks right now, this is the old layout here, but now there's very attractive lounge chairs in there.
Yeah.
They're expensive.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would want to hide that from the public.
Right, yeah.
So there's a possibility that I might decide not to do that. Over here, let me just explain this. This really doesn't show where Rituals is, over
Right.
here where the theater used to be, okay?
Mhm.
So this probably could turn into, if I have the other,
No,
could turn into benches instead of tables.
What you're proposing is, I think, essentially safer than what we had before, because the benches are so much closer to the original benches we talked about were so much closer to the stop sign. So I think that these tables are...
You're right, it's further away, and to be upfront with you, there's a little bit of an angle there as you come down from the building. At that angle, to me, looks a little bit dangerous. I'm not going to put tables there. I'll put a bench there. So that'll be my call, if it's a table or a bench.
Oh, they're not going to mess up the sight lines from the parking lot. You're not
No,
talking about that?
No.
There's not going to be that. You just say vineyard.
Good. You want to put something in here, though? I mean, I think this really covers, because it also says the seating is not to interfere with pedestrian use of the sidewalk, which is your concern, right?
Yeah, but that's vague for Reggie. What does
Okay,
that
no,
mean?
I mean, I think maybe you say something like the outdoor seating shall be of a size and a configuration so as not to interfere with the pedestrian use of the sidewalk, because it could still be just on his property and interfere with it. So this way, I think it gives you broader jurisdiction than to try to limit it to
Size
property
and
line.
use.
You think?
It may have to be only 2 seats per
Right,
table.
right.
The third seat.
Exactly. So I think that's the key. What we're trying to do here is make sure that he's not a hazard to pedestrians and that. kind of-
That third seat is actually where the rubber meets the road with this. That was actually the only concern that I was having, was the third seat facing in
Where people
to the
get
building,
their feet
which,
tangled up and
right.
they're
And
not
that might be fine depending on the size of the table and the chair, but it's not clear to me.
Well, and as the property owner stated, if it's going to be too close, he's just going to go back to benches.
Yeah, you know,
I don't see
Tom
problems.
had a
He
valid...
doesn't want problems.
Right.
Tom had a valid point a couple of minutes ago when he was talking about the seating in front of Kroger time, where he was concerned about cars coming onto the
Yes.
sidewalk. This is sometimes a little intense, this intersection. We're not worried about cars coming up on the sidewalk with these benches and tables there.
No, I'm not, because when you're coming to the corner, you're stopping, okay? And I would be the last person in the world who wants a problem. And in all the years that my family's owned a building, I've really never seen anybody come up on that sidewalk.
Good.
So I don't think it's a problem.
motion? Oh, that's pretty well, yeah, sure. Okay, what was the language you said? Okay. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a site plan modification of 2 Water Street, map 32, lot 43, to delete 2 benches and add cafe tables from outdoor seating. Total number of seats to remain the same as shown on an application dated 6/2/14. This application is approved with the following conditions: that the table and outdoor seating shall be of a size and configuration so as not to interfere with pedestrian use of the sidewalk.
Wonderful.
This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code.
Tom?
Second.
There we go. Any other discussion? We're done? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye. Now we're done.
Now we're done. Opposed, abstentions, none. Now you're done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck. Your
It
business
looks
prospers.
great.
Starting to get it now?
It's been really nice.
The yogurt is excellent too, by the way.
I've already been there like 3 times.
Yeah, I have too. It's terrible. Keep on going with these yogurt places.
really bad for you.
Applications to be received. We have Guilford Savings Bank.
Mr. Chairman, we have a site plan to be received. Guilford Savings Bank, 1 Park Street, map 40, lot 11, zone CD, site plan modification, rebuilding and moving the existing drive-up canopy, new walkways to new public entrance, new egress, exit, and moving of existing HVAC condensers from ground level to new roof canopy. Receive and set meeting date of July 2, 2014.
So moved.
Seconds?
Second.
There we go. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, it's all set. Great. Okay, correspondence. We have a letter I wrote. I'll explain. Right now, we don't really have a problem with food trucks on the green too much. But we don't really have any regulations that prevent food trucks from coming on the green as far as I know, and I'm going to ask staff to educate me if we do. But I wrote a letter to the Board of Selectmen to ask them to put some legislation in place so that we can have some sort of control over it. It's not really a planning and zoning issue. It's more something that they would have to come up with. And there was some confusion on their part as to what we have in place. What do we have in place? Anything?
We do. We have a peddler's license.
Yep.
It's a town ordinance. The licenses are issued by the police department. They send them over to us to zoning because if they have push carts, we need to tell them that they can't stay in one spot. They have to keep moving. You know, you see them when we have the parades and fireworks.
Is that codified like a food truck, like a
Well, a food truck is a little different. It's a motor vehicle that's licensed to drive on the roads. And I was told by the police department, because of that, they can park in any legal parking space in the town. The police chief is not in. He got married this weekend, so we were not
Congratulations to
able
him.
to talk to him about it. But that was my recollection when we had a discussion about this at a staff meeting.
They could park in any space legally.
Any legal parking
That doesn't mean they could vend out of that space though, right?
Right. Now, this came about because there are some misconceptions maybe.
Well, the other thing they can't do is they cannot set up on a vacant lot in town.
Right.
Without site plan approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Right. So this, what actually happened, and Reggie and I have had a discussion about this, is I took a ride out on my motorcycle and I saw a truck on the green in Madison, and it was the Pacifico Taco truck. And, you know, there were like 8 trucks there, and I was thinking, boy, I'm so glad that Guilford doesn't look like that. And I was coming back into Guilford, and I saw a repair facility repairing a truck from the Pacifico Taco Company. And so I thought, wow, that's really weird. You know, there's 2 guys with the same name. And so I, you know, drove up close to the one in the repair place, and it said truck number 139. And then I went back out to the green in Madison, and I saw it was truck number 62. And so this is not a mom and pop, one truck guy wants to make a living for his family, so he starts selling tacos.
Not necessarily, but it could be a franchised owner with a few trucks, so
Which
careful with
leads-
the mom and pop thing, because it could very well be
Right.
still a mom and pop.
And that's great, but my point is that if it's going to be a going business, if it's going to be something bigger, even if it's just one or two, I believe some municipalities near us have legislation in place where you can park for 1 hour and vend, and then you have to leave for a half hour. I tried to read the state law. I'm really not that great comprehending it, but I think it says that we can't stop them from vending. They have to be allowed to have time to vend, but you can somehow regulate how long they can stay and then how long they have to go.
So potentially, is it possible then that we could have 25 food trucks, get parking spaces around the green, potentially?
And every hour move 20 feet or...
But I mean, and vend out of there for, let's just say, 1 hour at a clip, and then go right around the block.
Yep, well, right now, they can do that. They can do that right now without any question about it.
Okay.
And what I was hoping for was to come up with an idea, or actually, I was hoping that the selectmen would come up with something that we could start to have some sort of control on it. One of the other issues, because I've been reading about this, one of the other issues is that many of these trucks have water. If it's a hot dog truck, they cook the hot dogs in water, or they have water in the truck. And what do you do with it? One of the problems that I was reading out west is they pull over a storm drain, they open up the drain, and down it goes. And right here, it's going to go out into the Long Island Sound, and it's going to have food particles in it, it's going to have whatever. And so, just to say, let's not do anything, doesn't work for me. But, I'm open to any kind of input or ideas.
I have a thought on that. Doesn't this town sanitarian have something?
Yes,
Oh, say
food
in
trucks
this-
have to be licensed by the health department.
But what does that really mean? Like,
They check the truck to make sure it meets the
right, but
the state health code.
And they still need to be in compliance with all
Correct.
the health regulations. You can't just dump
Correct,
stuff
and they,
into
and they
drains.
have to get a permit, whether it's a one-day permit or a full season permit from the health department. So some trucks will come, like to the Guilford Fairgrounds, and they get the 1 day or 2 day or whatever it is permit from our health.
So there already are regulations for something like that.
They don't get the full year permit. Now, they also get a peddler's permit from the police department, these trucks do. And so with the peddler's permit, they are allowed to vend.
So that would be, so I guess those are the questions. So I'm not as much worried about the health license from that they get, the vending license. That's okay, because that's just making sure somebody's eating food that's going to be in a,
Right.
cooked to the right temperature, all of that stuff. So they have to get it from our police department to vend. So they can't.
Peddler's
So in theory, trucks from New Haven, like whatever, like any of those trucks you see on the road in Longworth, can't pull up to our green and just start vending without.
No, the food trucks can if they're licensed, correct? Because they're driving.
Well, they have to be licensed by the health department, and they have to get a peddler's permit
It's just,
from the green.
I thought
from
you were
the
saying
police
that the
department.
peddlers permanently dealt with push cart type things, not.
Oh, no,
Okay.
not just push cart.
So
These
you know,
trucks
it's
do.
it's feasible, reasonable that right in front of one of the restaurants on the green, one of these trucks could pull up and park all day and vend food all day to the people that would be walking into this tax-paying business,
They
but
could.
taking some of their business away.
And the only two requirements that they would face before they did that would be the Guilford Health Department and the Guilford Police Department.
But that
They also
nothing.
require, they are required for vending permit to get the signature of the zoning officer. Although we don't really have any zoning authority with respect to these vehicles when they're on public property, or they're on the town road or the state road. But what we tell them is, when we sign this permit, you can't stay in any one spot for a long time.
Right, but I guess what I'm getting is I want to say what the long time
One of
is.
the question is, I mean, how much authority do we really have if somebody wants to object to it? And one of the things that you and I shared, Mr. Chairman, is this is a big business. This is a booming business.
It's
These
billions
trucks.
and billions of dollars
And it's
a year.
getting
growing.
bigger and bigger.
And the associations of truck vendors are forming, and they are, lobbying for liberal laws and for to end any discretion, any abuse or discretion that any of the permitting agencies might be employing. And therefore, I think the gist of your memo is correct. And this is actually something we talked about a year or so ago in staff, was that let's look at what the possibilities are. Let's look what the state law is. Let's look what other towns are doing, and see if we can come up with a comprehensive and proper regulation. I I mean, we're sort of throwing it over the wall to, in effect, to the Board of Selectmen. I think it is an ordinance that they're going to have to do. It's not a zoning issue, really.
So how do we help them do that?
Well, I think we can
That's a good
start by
Come on, I'm using the
clearly articulating what is the problem that we're
Right.
trying to solve, to make sure
I
we
think we're
solve the
trying
right
to
one.
ant-
And I've heard a lot of
anticipate a problem.
general talk.
I don't
but
think there is a problem
haven't
right
heard
now.
articulation of what the
Yeah.
real problem
I
is.
think we
mean,
started anticipating it because Madison is
Madison's
trying
been
to
dealing
deal with
with
this right now.
Yes, they are.
And why not deal with it right now before we have a problem? One of the other things, and you know, once you start thinking about something, of course, you're going to see it every day. And so I was driving to work, and I saw on, I think it's called Frontage Road in East Haven, right across from Home Depot, there was a mobile kitchen showroom, and it was a truck that looked like a food truck, but it was set up with kitchen cabinets inside. And so, you know, it's a burgeoning, growing business, and I don't know it's not going to just be food. You know, 5 years from now, it may be everything. And why wait until it starts to grow out of control and then we're, again, being reactive? I'd rather be proactive. So, you know, I know it sounds silly, but how can we help the selectmen do something to help Guilford before it gets to be a problem?
But, okay, Rich, so what I'm trying to understand though is that right now is I'm hearing from staff that there's no perception that there's a problem.
Right at the moment, yeah.
We
don't have a situation where there are food vendors setting up more or less permanently on the green as they apparently have in Madison.
But that could change
Which will
tomorrow.
happen eventually, because if they're in Madison, they're coming here. They're in East Haven, they're in Branford,
Yeah,
they're in, I was in Wallingford the other day, I was in Goodies the other day, there's food trucks everywhere. It's only a matter of time. We have one of the most beautiful greens, if not the most beautiful in Connecticut.
I'd like to keep it that way.
Luckily,
I mean,
they don't
it's a
watch
mecca. You go there on a
GCTV
Saturday,
or
it's
else
busy.
they'd know
Yeah,
about
but
it
they
now.
go to places where I mean, Guilford, I think, has a number of people, you know, I think they're looking at Madison, the town green, I think.
Well, I can tell you this much. I'm in the process of building a food truck right now. I hired a company out of Texas to do this for one of my franchises. It's going to be an ice cream food truck.
And you're going to just sit on town.
And two places that I said I would be at, I would be looking towards Jacobs Beach and the town green, because there's nothing. So there's a business person's mindset right now. So it's going to happen. So I think rather than react, let's act.
So from a businessman's standpoint, what would you think would be a good solution to this problem? Would it be limiting the amount of time? And I'm going to say it from the standpoint that, you know, you may have an ice cream truck coming, but so will 6 other people.
Exactly.
And so if we have some sort of rules,
absolutely,
then everyone would have to follow the same rules. Right now, we just have this nebulous, you can't stay there too long. What does that mean? You know, the guy, you know, it's a Sunday, you guys are at home relaxing with your family as you should be.
Right. Who's policing it?
No one's really there to police it. And then the police are going to say, well, come on, they have their health permit, they wash their hands, so, you know, they're safe to vend.
I don't know. I mean, if there's going to be 6 trucks there, that means there's a market for 6 trucks that's not being served, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, in my opinion, because it gives the public what they want. So, but I mean, again, you can take this either way you want. I'd like to know what the problem is that we're trying to solve, articulate that, and then I think the way to go about it is if it requires zoning changes, we could do that. If it requires an ordinance, it's got to be the Board of Selectmen. It should be brought up at their public meeting by whoever wants to be a proponent of this, and then they should get input from the public and formulate the necessary ordinance. But like I said, if there's 6 trucks there, it's going to be 6 trucks there because there's that much of a demand that people want. So.
And it might be an ice cream one, it might be the taco one, it might be the falafel one, the hot dog one.
Right.
It's not necessarily going to be 6 ice cream trucks, but I
Right.
think at some point there you're going to start seeing some out there.
So,
Which may not be a bad thing, but
Okay, well,
depends on
it
your
could,
point of view.
it could be a bad thing. You know, there was a situation 5 or 6 years ago where a truck pulled up and started vending on the side of the green and thought, gee, I got a brilliant idea. Let me put some tables and chairs out on the green. You know, that's a
Well,
problem.
I don't think you can do that, right, without a
Right.
permit. So
But
that's
it
a
happened.
violation, and there's a way to handle it. Well, but that's not because the regulations weren't there, it's because they didn't know that they were in existence. That's going to happen no matter what we do. So that was policed and properly handled. But you're right, I mean, I see.
Smell snowblower
Yeah.
out of a semi right on the
well,
side.
as a businessman,
I see, that's generators.
as a business person myself in another town, but what I'm concerned about is the people that are permanently here as businesses that are actively supporting this town, one way and either by paying taxes or providing services. and they should have a right to expect no less out of anybody else that's vending in this town, period.
Right.
Definitely.
You're
So the
absolutely right.
question is, how do you do that?
Right.
I don't know the answer, but that's how I see it.
Right, so I already wrote a letter to the selectmen saying you need to think about this, and it really stirred up, brought up the idea that they didn't really know what the law was. They said, we think that there's something in place, but there's not. Or there is, but it's not real. It doesn't have any real effect.
So
It is real.
I was going to ask a question about the same lines about this, not about this subject, but about adult entertainment and the difference between, because there's a lot of stuff that I printed out today, and I only started to look through it. But what's the difference between a regulation and an ordinance?
That's a very good question.
And where can
Are
you,
we moving on to that subject?
where do you end up having more authority to do something about a situation?
I don't,
Okay. So before we jump onto adult entertainment,
No,
which is
I mean, I want to apply it to this situation with the trucks.
so,
Well, the terminology, I mean, when we say regulation, I think we're talking about zoning regulation, so that the authority is under the Planning and Zoning Commission. Zoning regulations regulate land use on private property, not on town roads. The ordinance that would affect these vendors, if they're operating on town roads or state roads, would have to fall under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. So when we say ordinance, that's what we mean.
But doesn't it also give them more, I mean, versus us having long discussions and having Reggie trying to collect fees because someone's breaking a zoning regulation and it goes on forever, and then we go to arbitration and may not ever get any money. If you have an ordinance and it clearly spells out what the penalties are for violating the ordinance, I mean, I think it has more force of law
Sure.
than our regulations, and I think, so I personally think that's where, if we're going to do something, it should be the Board of Selectmen that creates an ordinance that handles this, and not the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I agree. I agree 100%.
Well, they already have an ordinance.
They
Well-
might need a more
Peddler's
robust one.
ordinance.
Yes.
Right, but
And
they
I
might
think
need,
what the commission is saying is they would like to have that more restrictive
Right.
than what it is.
Yeah, why don't we appoint somebody, and I'd volunteer to work with the selectmen and
that would
see
be
if we
great
come
if
up
you
with
could do
something.
that.
And they may not be
Frank's
able
gonna
to
get
make
one
it more
license.
restrictive.
one license. It's gonna be in my
And that's it, just one, and no more than that. All right, so are we all okay with Frank running with the ball on this one?
We're going to also make Frank enforce it. Just so there'll be no problems in town.
I think this might actually be appropriate to refer to EDC, to the Economic Development Commission, just because they were talking a lot about green, vendors on the green, and frankly, this is a thing that is almost within our jurisdiction, but isn't when it comes to public parking spaces. And I think that our regulations are just about in the right place in terms of the Ag Society, fairgrounds, or in terms of other places where we might be approving this kind of activity. But the green merchants have been working closely with the EDC because they've been worried and concerned and hopeful about a whole set of things. And I think that food vendors on the green would have the most impact on the green merchants.
Well, you know, the other thing that planning and zoning can do is we could look around at the different zones on our main street, the different properties, and maybe put that use, food vending trucks, into one or the other zone.
Yeah, but they're allowed on public streets. We don't have control over that.
Well,
No,
but
she's saying regulate.
maybe cluster them together on a
Allow them
property.
on private property subject to some kind of zoning permit.
So, yeah, but where would you do that? You know,
Well, as you know, we had one that was proposed to be located on Route 1. that
Right.
The applicant actually withdrew before it came before the commission. But we had a vending truck that was actually proposed to be on private property, and we...
The old Bobby Baird property?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Bobby Baird property, and we presumed that it was going to be subject to site plan review, even though there's nothing in the zoning regulations that says anything about food vending trucks.
You know, well,
But that was a table and a grill. That wasn't.
No, it was a little bit more elaborate than that.
right, but from a business standpoint, you know, you really want traffic. You want people coming by. I would want it on the green if I had a truck.
Or somebody sticking in Shoreline Plaza down in one
Well,
of the
you could
corners.
figure out
Yeah.
where you'd like to see it as a zoning commission, because it is a use. At one time, when we got the application for the Grass Island Market, they envisioned having an outdoor
Yeah,
flea
I
market.
remember that, I remember that.
With food vendors. That never materialized.
All right,
So
so
it's across the street from where you saw it getting repaired.
right, exactly. So all right, so Walter is thinking economic development. Frank wants to run with the ball. Do we have a consensus of what everyone thinks?
I think it's two-pronged. I think we should involve Brian in the Economic Development Commission.
Yeah.
And let Frank carry
Frank
it.
also
Board of
run with it
Selectmen.
at the.
I'd like to. I'll talk with Brian and Selectmen.
Yeah, that's good. If you could do all that, you could do everything, and that would be great.
You could do everything.
We'll make you the.
Well, like Ray said, it really is mostly an ordinance, and we're obviously about to have a discussion about that, so.
Yep. So okay, good. So now on to the fun part.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Food vending, because
Please.
a friend of mine has a food vending truck.
For the record,
For the record, Victor Renatra, 2614 Boston Post Road. As a matter of fact, it was at that Manic Chevrolet, he wanted to set up a truck there. And they required a site plan
Yes.
review. He never followed through with it because it was just too complicated for him. But apparently it was allowed. It
With
came
site
before the
plan
board.
revision.
It was like- So on private property, it's allowed
Yep.
based on your review. My thinking is if it's on the green, it's not just a truck being parked in a space. In order to vend the product, he's taking up another space where people have to line up. And then also,
Or on the green.
on the green, also, he's got garbage cans that you have to deal with. Where does the garbage go?
Right.
He's got a generator pumping carbon dioxide.
And then the noise all day
And the
long.
noise, I mean, if there were ordinances regarding all those things,
That's really.
that could squelch it. But at the same token, I think food vending trucks are a good idea, but if there was something allowable more on private property, I like the idea if there was a vacant lot that was available and they were allowed there and proper sanitation, because now people are going to use a food truck without a bathroom.
They're going to go in. They'll go into the restaurant that's right next door and use the
Right, but
bathroom.
see, that's.
Right, and that's not fair.
So there are issues there that would have to be ironed out.
Good, thank you. That's really good about the generators. I had not considered that, but, you know, I can't imagine walking my dog on the green and there's a truck there for 6 hours with a generator running all day long. It's not good.
Well, just go to Longworth, you could hear it.
I know, I've been to Longworth.
That's what our green will sound like.
Right, so you're going to run with this ball. And keep us posted on what's going on, and if, you know, whatever whatever I can do, just let me know. You know, I wrote a letter, but it didn't really have too much of a explosion. All right, anything else, guys? All right. So, adult-oriented facilities. I proposed this 3 or 4 weeks ago, and you know, we set a public hearing date, and it was July 2nd, and then everything broke loose because Chuck Andres reviewed it, and a lot of what is in there is really not good. A lot of it is just unenforceable. There needs to be significant changes, revisions, and what it comes down to is whether it's better to scrap what we have and start over, or whether it's better to fix what we have. You know, I think Tom has the Chuck Andres advice thing printed out. Should we read it into the record?
well, I also have all the other stuff that he gave me, and I have the case law, which I'm not an attorney, but clearly we got to do something. We can't do it the way.
Did everybody receive a copy of Chuck's email? Yeah, sorry.
I do have it here.
We didn't print any copies of it, but I don't think you need to read it out loud.
This is a long memo we take.
Yeah, I'll read it.
Basically, it talks about the fact that there's been case law and some of the stuff about limiting where you can have it because of somehow this is construed as freedom of speech.
In a
There's
convoluted way.
There's some issues there that I don't think that we have got nailed down.
Right,
And it also led me to think about, quite frankly, reading this, it led me to think about something else that I had, because we have in our regs now, as I understand it, we have a couple places where we would allow this. It's not in the industrial zone, I think, right? There's an I2 zone.
Currently, there's nothing in our regs.
No,
Either way.
The current situation is we don't have any regulations specifically for adult-oriented businesses.
So could someone come in and apply for a place anywhere?
Well, it depends on the nature of the activity. If it was a retail store, the conventional wisdom is a store like VIP or one of the other ones that you may or may not be familiar with. It's basically a retail store that sells various products, sexually explicit or adult-oriented. And under our current regulations, any place that permits retail stores would permit such a use, subject to all the other constraints and regulations that we have in terms of maximum store size, setbacks, coverage, and all of that. We don't have anything that would restrict this type of retail store to an area that's more narrow than where any other retail store. Actually, industrial zones, ironically or not, do not permit retail stores. So that would be the one place you would not be able to put that type of store under our current regulations. The intent of the regulation that was drafted and approved for public hearing was to restrict where these facilities could go, identify a place where they could go, and restrict them accordingly. And therefore, as a result of that, they wouldn't be permitted anywhere else except in that narrowly defined geographic area. I think the gist of what Chuck Andrus is saying is that the way this was crafted is probably too narrow, probably not transparent enough, and has a number of other deficiencies in terms of the way it's crafted. Because, and he's particularly worried about it because of the highly litigious environment that this industry operates in, and their need to protect their industry to make sure that towns like Guilford and others don't interfere with their freedom, their First Amendment rights. So that's why it's such a contentious type of regulation. There's no one interested in developing any such facility in Guilford. So we're not like many other towns that have tried to deal with this when somebody has come forward to propose it, like occurred in Orange a few years ago, more than a few years ago. So we're doing the right thing, I think, in trying to regulate in advance, or create some regulations before it's an issue, if it would ever even become an issue. But I think the gist of what Chuck's saying is that we need to step back and do it a little bit differently, and we need to go through a fairly robust process of identifying all the problems that, through literature and research that these types of facilities potentially create, and make sure that's all on the record so that we have a good basis for treating this differently than other retail stores. And that's what this is really all about. Why, if retail stores are allowed in all of our other commercial zones, what is it that's so egregious about this particular type of retail store that it's only allowed in little tiny areas here or there? I mean, what is it about it that's so bad? And we need to make that finding and convince ourselves and convince the public that, or demonstrate that we think that it is different than other types of retail stores and needs to be restricted in some way or another. So I think what I would certainly think, I think we should do is first withdraw the proposal that we have now and send it to the, probably to me, and ask and make it a priority. You make it a priority for me to redraft this, and I'll work with Chuck and try to come up with a zoning regulation that meets his criteria and standards. I'll use Chuck to the minimum extent possible, since our in-house counsel is doesn't want us to spend too much money on legal services, if at all possible.
Well, can I interrupt you a
So
second?
therefore, that's what I would suggest doing.
Well, this is one of those things where, sometimes money is well spent on certain things. And, certainly we want to have Chuck weigh in on this as much as he possibly can, because I'd rather pay a little bit now than a lot later if he has to defend us if we say something stupid and get it enacted, and I don't think we're going to do that. But also, this kind of thing, I'm trying to think of the impacts that this kind of thing would have that would make it something that we could sink our teeth into and say, I don't want this kind of business here because. And, I'm thinking that, it could be things like increased crime, it could bring prostitution with it, it could bring drug usage, it could bring a number of things. But whatever we need to spend as a town, it would be money well spent. Guilford, there are intangibles that make Guilford great. And not having one of these stores makes it great for me. And I don't know, maybe I'm being closed-minded, and maybe everyone else in town wants it, which is why we would need to have a public hearing and let them weigh in. But, in-house counsel is concerned about us spending money. I don't want to spend money unnecessarily. Sometimes we joke about how I don't want to pay the bills. I do not want to spend tax dollars if I don't have to. However, with that being said, sometimes you have to spend the money. And this may be one of those cases for me. Maybe we should ask the other commissioners and see if I'm out of line, I'll be quiet.
I'm thrilled that we had council look at this and discuss findings in general. And I'm thrilled that we have a specific path now that we can follow. I think structurally it's unfortunate that we had to simply propose draft zoning regulations in order to get anybody to start moving on it structurally within our bureaucracy. I think that we've been talking about it for a long time, and I'm not sure that we would have been able to get anybody to move on it, except that we simply received and proposed this set of regs.
Yeah.
I think that once this set of regs was on the table and moving forward, suddenly we forced the hand of people who were not interested in having this come to the fore because it's politically sensitive and it wasn't immediately before us. And I'm really pleased that Chuck has come, that now Chuck has been brought in after a full year of discussing this issue.
It might have been longer.
Now, yeah.
Might have been longer.
Our former chairwoman, Shirley Girioni, mentioned that she brought it up 5 years ago. The thing is that ultimately, we really need to be proactive. And the fact that this might be upsetting or toxic to some people does not mean that we can just keep kicking the can. And I'm really glad that this has been received so that action has been forced.
Well, just as a rule of thumb, if something is distasteful, you want to get that done first. And, this is one of those things where I wish we had done this 10 years ago. If the concern is about cost now, of what it's going to cost and, all the different reviews and inputs and all that, if we had done this 10 years ago, the cost would have been a quarter of what they will be today. And looking forward, if we don't do it now and we push it 10 more years down the road, these costs will seem very, very insignificant compared to what they would be 10 years from now. So I agree. I think that pushing it through in a stone-headed kind of way was maybe hard-headed and...
But frankly, I don't think that we should withdraw it until we have a set of regs and a set of findings that have been presented to us. If we want to continue it to, say, the first August meeting, we could continue consideration of the ones that we currently have.
We haven't opened any public hearings, so I don't think.
You have set a public hearing date to consider the text that you have now.
Should we?
I think it would be a lot cleaner to, I don't think the way I envision writing the regulation, it would be different format and structure than the way it was done before.
And that would be great.
And, I mean, the issue really before us is, if you accept Chuck's primary thesis that you have to allow we know what these stores look like. You have to allow them somewhere. The challenge before us is to identify where it would be allowed.
Yep.
And it can't be a tiny little corner somewhere, off, out of the beaten path where no retail store would ever go. That probably won't fly if you read Chuck's memo correctly.
Right.
It's got to be in some place where retail stores typically, or in all likelihood, would go. And the likelihood of us ever actually getting one seems extremely remote. But that is basically what it boils down to. All the other stuff is pretty easy to put together. The difficult thing is to identify where this facility or type of facility could go.
I think one thing we also got to think about, and I keep hearing the one in Orange, the VIP, this big 20,000 square foot or whatever building but you got to keep in mind, this doesn't have to be that. There's other ones out there that are 1,500 square feet, 900 square feet in retail plazas that could happen tomorrow. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. It's not just that big, huge box that's going to say VIP on it. It could be a very small little 1,000 square foot.
Yeah, I think it's a good suggestion that George run with the ball on this. Use Chuck to the extent that you feel necessary, working with town council. He's already proved his worth here by preventing something that would have had trouble going forward. So the investment spent to date has been well spent for two reasons. One, it prevented something that could have had potential problems and resulted in additional litigation and higher legal fees from occurring. And number two, he gave us a basis from which to work to refine the regulations. So yeah. I think it would be best to have staff take a look at this, do as much of the work as you can on this. To the extent you need to involve council, use your judgment working with town council to make sure the money's wisely spent. But I think it will pay dividends in the long run, because if this were to go to litigation, it's going to be a lot more expensive than whatever it's going to cost us to draft this correctly in the first place.
Right. Plus, there's other things too. If we don't do anything, if we just bury our heads in the sand and pretend that nothing could ever happen because it's Guilford and that doesn't happen here, it will happen, and there'll be costs associated with that. It's not like these are a quiet little business that nothing goes on. Some of these have booths in the back and things go on in there and people out in the parking lot, and potentially, it could have costs with the police department just patrolling on a heavier basis, a couple times a night, having to stop by just to keep the peace. So, we're gonna have to spend some money. But, we didn't move here because we wanted low taxes. We wanted to have a wonderful town, and sometimes having a wonderful town means you have to spend a little bit of money. So, George, if you were gonna do this and you were working as expeditiously as possible, when do you see that we could maybe think about a public hearing?
Well, I'd like to, I would feel a lot more comfortable if you withdrew the current regulations. So
Yep.
we don't have something pending, a month from now, which is basically what this is. I would be able to have a pretty well drafted new regulation by the meeting in July 2nd. And what I'd like to do is discuss it with the commission.
Yep.
Again, keeping in mind that it's not that hard to write it. The key thing is to define where.
Yep.
It's not that hard. Once we define where, it's not that hard to draw some lines on the map and say this is where it can go.
Well,
it
should be like as far away from houses, right. As far away from churches and
right.
schools and
yes.
All the usual things.
Yes.
It's probably going to have to be on Route 1 somewhere.
Probably.
If it's going to meet the criteria that it would be a place where a business like that would open. Tom?
Well, what I would like to understand is if we can have a regulation in this town now that says liquor stores can't be any closer than, which I think has actually created a monopoly, by the way, but can't be any closer than 1,500 feet from each other, and that's been in our regs for a long time. Can we use that same kind of language? I guess what I'm concerned
Yes.
about is...
I think you can, if you make a finding as part of your process, that having a concentration of these facilities has an adverse impact, then you can create a separating distance.
I fear that, for example, I saw in one of the letters about the west side of town, someone said, yeah, and also probably they'll put all the adult entertainment stores in the west side of town. And quite frankly, I think as a citizen, if we know we have to have them, let's not say, okay, we're going to put them all on this one block. If we have to end up with one in the west side and one on the east side, so be it. But let's not zone it so that they're all in 3 stores right next to each other in one place.
That will never happen.
Well, what I would ask you to do is withdraw the proposal that's on the table now.
Okay.
And instruct me to have a draft new proposal by July 2nd. And in the meantime, what I would ask of you is that between now and July 2nd, you think about, how we should address, that
Come up with a
this
spot.
issue.
Okay,
So,
I'm going to move that.
okay, we have a motion. Anyone second?
I'm not sure we should necessarily withdraw this. I think that this has created all of the momentum to actually get something drafted. And I think that something is not yet drafted.
Today's June 4th. Can he do it in 28 days?
It can be done in
Well,
28 days, but it has not been done in a very long time.
One of the things I'd be concerned about 28 days, because if you read Chuck's letter, the way other regulations that have been tested and worked is that it cited a lot of documents from other places where studies have been done on the effects of adult entertainment.
And we can
I don't think we could just throw a list in there and have nobody ever had looked at them and say we did our homework.
Correct. We have to review those findings.
So could we do
Or
that by
others.
July 2nd?
I don't know. Alone in this one, I mean, here's just Middletown's, and they have listed, and it's very complex, but they have listed in their document
Double-sided.
15 different documents that they entered as exhibits of why they felt they need to have this ordinance.
The reason I was suggesting the withdrawal is not to take any of the momentum away from this effort, which I think is important, as Walter said. But the next meeting we're going to talk to you in a few minutes about not having a meeting on June 18th, which is your next meeting. So the next meeting of the commission will be the public hearing on the project, on what we have right now. So people who may want to weigh in on this are going to be anticipating that on July 2nd, we're going to have a public hearing on the current regulation.
So supposing we come up with a common ground, like you're thinking August, you're thinking July 2nd, can we reach a common ground?
He's thinking July 2nd too.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't have the public hearing on July 2nd.
Right.
On July 2nd,
Be a
I would
receipt.
discuss with you the proposed
Right.
regulation, and then you would set a public hearing date. Between that date and the public hearing date is when we would identify all the studies that are going to be part of the record and put them in the record, and you can be reading them, and the public can, and everybody else who might be interested in this, between July 2nd and whenever the public hearing is going to be.
I don't think we need to discuss this anymore, quite frankly, but I would hope that the staff would in fact be able to provide references to the members of this commission about where these documents can be found and read.
Chuck has given us the stuff that we've received at this point is a fair amount of is a good start and a good list.
So would you Google Virginia Adult Use Study dated March 1996?
Or just read that. I mean,
No, it's not in here. It's a citation.
All right, so
What I'm saying is somebody needs to read that study.
Well, what I would do is, just thinking out loud, is with consultation with Chuck, select those that are most relevant and pertinent to us, make copies of them even on paper, create a reference to them for those that we don't want to actually print out, and have them available to you and everybody else who might be interested in this.
So you're thinking we'll have an educated discussion on July 2nd?
Right.
And then
And
set a
draft
public hearing
proposal.
date Now,
That would be,
if we say, oh, this is wonderful, we're happy, and it's July 2nd, what's the earliest public hearing date that we could set?
first Wednesday in August.
Supposing we were to set something in mid-July now, pretending that we're going to be happy on July 2nd, if we acted now to set a public hearing date on the mid-July meeting, could we do that? And then if it doesn't pan out, if it really is miserable...
We don't have, well, I guess we could, but we don't have any, I don't have anything to propose for you to receive. So I would,
All right.
I would be uncomfortable with that.
Walter, can't you always just repropose our previous document if you're worried about the lag of?
Oh, no, that, I designed that as a laundry list, and I was fine with it ending up where it has been, ended up being reviewed, and I'm thrilled that Chuck was reviewing it and that he brought up findings, and also I'm thrilled that we've discussed he refers to the sort of packing and cracking distances in terms of putting them all together as opposed to spreading things apart.
Yeah.
And I'm especially happy that we have a more nuanced understanding of exactly what geography we really require. And I'm really happy about all of that, and I'm happy that it is finally happening.
Good.
So if we can withdraw this and actually receive something quite specific on July 2nd, then we will have only been waiting 13 months on this project.
Could we interrupt for a second? Victor would like to say something.
I think they're not true. Right now, from what I understand, adult entertainment can be put in any retail establishment. Right now.
Right now.
It's allowed.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, so, I mean, we don't have anyone doing that, but a retail store can start selling the apparatus that we're all objecting, and there's no way to stop it.
Nope.
Now, my question is, if that's the case, are these retail stores going to be grandfathered in?
Yes.
Because the regulation would occur afterwards?
If there's someone doing it,
So,
yes.
and there's no reason why someone can't do it right now.
Absolutely.
The reason why no one's doing it, because it's not profitable to do something like that in Guilford.
Right now.
There's no need.
Today.
That's correct.
But 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it may be.
Well, that's something that could be boycotted, and it's something that 5 to 10 years from now, if everyone in Guilford wanted that, that's what they would want.
Right.
Everything's based on a need basis for a business to be profitable. And right now, an adult entertainment can go in any retail establishment, and my thinking is if that's grandfathered in, no matter what ordinance you put forth, it's only going to make the existing retail stores more valuable.
No.
You're incorrect there, Victor, I think.
Okay.
No, then it all once the ordinance is, once the regulation is in place.
Unless
somebody applies.
If somebody filed an application today, it would have to be
Well,
considered.
my understanding, you don't have to file an application. You could just change your
Use.
Well,
Right,
if you
so
have a
if
retail
they-
store now, if you're selling shoes, you can turn that into an adult products store without any approval from planning and zoning.
If it was an existing
If
retail
it's an
use.
existing retail use.
But that's
And
not
they
going
would
to carry
be
for next week.
grandfathered.
That would be grandfathered.
Right.
If the
However,
store
once
was-
the day the regulations that we're talking about are accepted and published and there's no appeal, and they're effective, then from that day forward, no one.
Correct.
Well, if somebody was smart and had a shoe store and they say, well, I'm going to sell a few little things on the side here and in my back room, and then you pass an ordinance,
That
well, now my
person-
business would be more valuable because now I have
That
to-
person-
There is an argument that could be made that by proposing this, you're going to force somebody to do it where they wouldn't have done it before if they think it's going to be.
I think the best way to
But,
prevent
you
it
know,
is
that's the.
basically.
And that's been
public
true
not
since
supporting-
Table 5.
Right.
So you're saying you don't think we need a regulation?
I think there's a lot of big waste of time with this free speech issue. You're fighting an uphill battle, and there's no reason.
It's a battle I'd
It's
like
like
to...
building a straw man and then trying to.
It's a battle I'd like to fight. I know I might be battling against it and it's uphill, but
Well, that would mean Guilford would really turn in an opposite direction to support that kind of a facility. Just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I can't imagine this town ever supporting a facility like that.
Yeah,
and
good.
you know the other I had a moment. I was grabbing a couple slices of pizza. And I was talking with the owner, and he also owns land in Brantford, a building in Brantford that was renting to one of those places. And he made a decision that he didn't want to be known as a landlord who rents to one of those places, so he threw the guy out. So there's a bunch of layers of stuff going on around this. You know, a landlord doesn't have to meet all the thresholds that we have to meet. But, you know, in my opinion, to do nothing, as we have done since forever, is wrong. And I'd rather do something. And, you know, if we fail trying to do something, at least we fail trying to do something. I'd rather fail.
That's my thoughts. It's allowed right now.
Yep.
Anybody can do it right now, so you got, yeah, that's just my thought.
Okay, good. Thank you. Appreciate you saying that. All right, so where are we at right now, folks?
I made a motion, I think.
Yeah, we're on a motion. You
I think
seconded
someone
it?
seconded it.
Okay, so.
That was to
withdraw.
To withdraw.
And ask George to move forward with doing this post haste. Okay, so we have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Carries. No other votes. All right, so we're set with that. Anything else last minute? No? We have a very fortunate opportunity. I was approached by Elsa Green, who said that she would love to volunteer more of her time on Route 1 West. And again, the opportunity for folks to come forward who have not had a lot of experience with participating is absolutely wonderful. And we really want to encourage as many people as we can that, you know, this is a higher calling, this is public service, and this is wonderful. And so Elsa Green is going to be on Route 1 West, and if anyone else would like to participate in a meaningful way, we are wide open. We would love to have you join us. So congratulations to Elsa. Next up is the bills.
Pay the bills. I move it.
Second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor of paying our bills?
144.77, by the way.
They're killing me,
Please
killing
say
me.
it.
144.77. Ugh.
All in favor, say aye.
All in favor, say aye. All right.
I'm the only one who didn't say aye.
Yeah, okay. All right, approval of minutes from the May 21st meeting. Have you all had an opportunity to read these minutes? And do they appear to be right? They appear to be right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so
read 'em.
is anyone moving to approve them?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we're coming to the favored part. There's no more business.
Wait a minute, excuse me.
Wait. Oh, that's right, you were going to tell us something.
We want to ask your permission to cancel the June 18th meeting.
Because there's nothing in front of us.
There's nothing on the agenda.
We're gonna be
Katie's gonna
short-staffed.
on vacation.
Yep.
We haven't found anybody stepping forward to wanting to do that.
So
Her
let's,
job, so I would ask you to,
do we need to vote to do this?
I don't know whether that's, you can just do it, or if it's a
You're
commission
the
vote or
chairman.
not, but
All right,
I think
so
the chairman can cancel it.
let me rise to the challenge. Let's postpone that meeting, and let's have our next meeting on July the 2nd. That way we have an opportunity to get everything really ready for that, because it's going to be a big meeting. All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Is there anyone seconding? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Good night, everybody.